looking live.
There's something sacred about this stadium and its setting. There's nothing like this venue, in my opinion, in all of sports.
The setting is about as good as anywhere in the country. With the San Gabriel Mountains in the backdrop, it's always picturesque.
We're going to play football. Yes, he's going for the corner. He's got it. Vince Young scores.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Rose Bowl Live. I'm your host from the Rose Bowl Stadium, Dedan Brozino, and on behalf of our entire stadium team and our CEO, Daryl Dunn, we still hope you're remaining safe, happy, healthy as we continue to keep a close eye on this virus. And to all you out there that are mothers, happy Mother's Day weekend. We hope you're enjoying the time with your family, using technology to the best of your ability to have some fun and to be together even though you might not be right next to one another. As we head into week 3 of Rose Bowl Live, our new virtual platform here at America's Stadium, thousands of you have tuned in so far to hear Hall of Famers, broadcast legends, and other key members of the Rose Bowl family. Today we shift gears and welcome 2 trailblazers and Olympic medalists to the program. As you all know, the Rose Bowl Stadium has hosted 2 Olympic Games so far, with a third slated for the 2028 Olympics when they return to Los Angeles. We're fortunate to have 2 more key members of the Rose Bowl Stadium family seated with us in our virtual stadium today with Lauren Gibbs and Meyers Drysdale. Let's start with Lauren. Lauren's a Los Angeles gal with Pasadena roots. She attended Westridge School in Pasadena before heading off to the Ivy League and Brown University to play volleyball. She got into the corporate sector as an executive leader before getting lured away to become one of the greatest bobsled Olympians on the circuit. We're looking forward to hearing more about that tonight. Lauren won a silver medal in the 2018 Olympics and is a motivational speaker. She's an incredible contributor to the Rose Bowl Stadium family, participated in our Women's Empowerment Symposium last July. Lauren, welcome to Rose Bowl Live, our virtual stadium. Thanks for being with us. How are you? Where are you? Tell us how you're doing amidst the pandemic of the last 7-8 weeks we've all been dealing with.
I'm doing pretty well. I'm actually home in LA at my parents' house. Obviously it's tough having to shelter in place and not be able to do things that I'm used to. But I'm just grateful for my health, my family's health, and of course, extra time that I get to spend with my parents. I don't know if they're as grateful for it because I'm hiding cookies from them and making them drink water. But it's been fun spending time with my mom and dad.
Well, I'm sure they're raiding the cookie jar while you're with us for these next 45 minutes. So thanks for joining us today. Our second guest, Meyers Drysdale, is an LA gal as well, with roots as a Bruin, an Olympian, a sports executive, a broadcaster, a Hall of Famer, you name it. She's a true trailblazer. As one of the first women inducted in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and broke barriers, becoming the first 4-year scholarship athlete at UCLA. She led the U.S. women's basketball team to its first Olympic appearance in 1976 and captured the silver medal that year. She's listed by Time Magazine as one of the top 10 female athletes of all time. And Ann is devoted to so many positive advancements in our society, as well as the Rose Bowl family. Ann, welcome to episode 3 of Rose Bowl Live. How are you doing? How are your family doing? Where are you right now?
I'm good, Dean, and I couldn't be more proud to be on with Lauren. And Lauren, I'm like your parents. I have my daughter staying with me. She's kind of sequestered with me. And my 2 boys are good. They're elsewhere, but my daughter and I got, I guess, bored. We were walking a lot, which was great. And but we ended up going online and on Craigslist and got a puppy. And so this past 3.5 weeks has been keeping us mighty busy, to say the least.
Ladies, thank you so much for being with us today. This is the 3rd week of the show. We've had Hall of Fame broadcasters, Hall of Fame football players, coaches, and it's an absolute honor on behalf of the Rose Bowl to have 2 Olympians in the virtual stadium with us today that have been through so much, and we look forward to diving in with you today on many different topics. And I want to start with you. Your path involved a lot of competition with your siblings. You and I were trading notes on. My mother-in-law actually went to church with you at the same parish and everything. But you grew up with a lot of siblings, mostly brothers. And tell us about growing up with that competitive mindset. What was that like? That really shaped you, right?
Well, I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters. My mom and dad are from Milwaukee. My dad played basketball at Marquette. That's where they met. They moved out to Southern California. The first 6 were born in San Diego area. Then we moved out to Chicago. 3 were born there, and then back out to Southern California for the last 2. And sports was certainly an important part of our lives, and we were exposed to it at an early age. And having that many kids, yes, you became very competitive. And my oldest sister, Patty, who we lost about 2 years ago, and was probably the best athlete in the family. But I was between 2 boys, my brother David and my brother Jeff. So it was very competitive with them, and would go out and play with their friends, whether we were playing basketball or over the line or riding our bikes or, playing catch or football out in the streets, whatever it was, board games, cards. Yes, everything was pretty competitive, and who not only would win, but who would come out unbloodied.
Which was there one specific sibling that you just had their number all the time in a specific game or match, or is there one that you go back to around the Thanksgiving table and just still poke them in the ribs about it?
I try not to bring it up. I just I want to be respectful of that time. It happened, it's done, and I try not to bring it up.
That's very honorable. That's very honorable. Lauren, shifting over to you, you have a very unique path. You went from, you're an LA gal, Pasadena, Westridge School, head off to the Ivy League, play collegiate volleyball, and then you get into the corporate sector, and now you're on the Olympic bobsled team. I mean, tell us a little bit about your path from, let's start with those foundational elements, from Los Angeles, Pasadena to Brown, as a student athlete. I mean, what were those early parts of your competitive athletic life as you really shaped your future at the time to be a business executive, not be an Olympic bobsledder?
Well, I started at Westridge in 6th grade, and my mom says on the tour, she remembers me standing in front of the trophy case saying, I want to win medals for this school and win trophies for this school. And, the cool thing about having gone to Westridge, it was all about, fostering and supporting women in whatever path they were going to want to pursue. And I always knew, because of from going to Westridge and, of course, being supported by my parents, that I could do and be anything that I wanted to do and be. And so, the corporate world was what I thought I was supposed to be doing. So I went and did that. And it was probably for a different company, it would have been a better fit. And then, I tried out for the bobsled team as a joke. And I always say the joke's on me because I'm still doing it 6 years later. And so, I was just raised to know that whatever I wanted to do and be, I could do it as long as I worked hard at it. And it was something that was worthwhile, worth my time.
Yeah, and both you ladies participated in the Rose Bowl's inaugural Women's Empowerment Symposium last July, where we welcomed in 18 to 23-year-old young women and really surrounded them with a support base of successful females, whether it be the both of you or people in business. We had the only female pilot of the Goodyear blimp there that day. And what you just said, Lauren, is I think indicative of the tone that we had throughout that day. And we appreciate both you ladies doing that for us last July. For those of you listening in on Facebook, on YouTube, we appreciate it. We've had thousands of you tune in over the last several weeks. If you have any questions or comments for Ann or Lauren, please chat with us on those two mediums, and we'll be sure to get to some fan questions at the end of the program today. Ann, I'd like to shift back to you for a moment here and talk a little bit about UCLA. You were the first female to be signed to a 4-year college scholarship. What did that time in Westwood mean to you as a Bruin, and how did that shape your path as a broadcaster, sports executive, wife, mother, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, first I want to go back to what Lauren said, and just having the belief from her parents and the work ethic. And, back in the mid 80s, I was one of the Goodwill ambassadors along with Carol Lewis, who was the long jumper, her brother Carl. And Carol is, I don't know if you know this, Lauren, was going to do bobsledding, and she wanted me to come out and be her partner in the bobsledding. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity just to even think about doing that. And Lauren being a multi-athlete, just not bobsledding, running, volleyball, and just being able to do so many things. And I admire what you're doing, and I'm so happy that you're doing it too. But you going to Brown, my niece played volleyball at Brown, so I know they had a good volleyball program, and with people like you and my niece, Natalie Meyers. But certainly UCLA did help shape me, not just with athletics, but certainly with, I was a sociology major, but I had one professor that really made a difference, Art Friedman, that turned me into broadcasting. I never thought that I would have a career in that. Now I've been doing that over 40 years. And but certainly the people that I met at UCLA, the opportunities that I was given because of going to UCLA and because of the people that I met, being an athlete, and not only in basketball, but I also played volleyball and ran track at UCLA and tried out for a couple other sports there. But UCLA has just really shaped a lot of who I am today. And I'm grateful for the opportunity that I did have a full athletic scholarship because of Title IX. And without Title IX, who knows that if I even end up at UCLA, even though my brother David was already at UCLA playing for Coach John Wooden. And but I hope that that had a lot to do with me coming there. Recruitment was not like it is today. And AAU was completely different when I was younger. AAU for women, and it was for women, not for young girls and growing up in club teams. And so that's completely different today. But my brother David was at UCLA, and the fact that they came to me and offered me a scholarship and being the first woman to get a scholarship, didn't realize the impact back then. I just knew that coming from a family of 11 children, my parents didn't have to pay for my education.
Thanks, Ann. Now, Lauren, back to you for a moment. You referenced in your earlier response, you said trying out for the Olympic team, you did it as kind of a joke. That this not too often you hear an Olympic medalist describe the entry point of their Olympic experience in that manner. Do you mind sharing that with us, sharing that with your viewers? You know, what was the joke and how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I was living in Denver, Colorado at the time and working. I was an area sales manager. I was managing 200 people in 5 different states. And so my path was pretty well set as far as I was concerned. And then one day I was just working out in a gym and my friend was like, "You should bobsled." And I thought she was joking. But I looked into it, and there was an Olympic training center an hour from me in the Springs, and I didn't know Olympic training centers were a thing. And so I literally just went down there because you could pay extra to eat in the cafeteria and take a tour. And so I was like, oh, I'll eat like an Olympian for a day. Maybe I'll meet one. I'll go buy a T-shirt. I'll take a tour, and it'll be like this bucket list item. And I'll just tell everybody at work on Monday, like the time I tried out for the U.S. bobsled team. And I really thought that would be it. And then just like week after week, I just kept getting invited back to another camp. And the next thing you know, I was standing at the top of a bobsled track getting ready to take my first ride. And I was hooked after that.
Why do you feel like your friend pushed you toward or recommended the bobsled at the time what you thought was the joke? Was there a reason that you aligned with the bobsled at that stage of your Olympic vision at the time?
I honestly have no idea. Her name's Jill Potter. She ended up going, this was in 2014, she ended up going to Rio as a rugby Olympian. And Jill is one of those people, she's a 2-time cancer survivor, just one of the hardest working athletes I've ever met. And she just believes in people and their ability. And she was like, "You're strong and you're tall. And I'm assuming you're fast." She's like, "You should just give it a try. They're looking for people." And so I was like, I just want to go see the training center. And it just shows you should always leave yourself open to opportunities because you never know when one will lead you to the Olympic podium, I guess.
So talk about, if you don't follow the viewers out there, if you don't follow Lauren on Instagram, please do. Her Instagram is LA Gibbs, GIBBS 84. Lauren, you post a lot of training photos on there. You're a very positive person. For those of us that don't know anything about the Olympics in today's world where training and nutrition and just being on the clock constantly, regardless of the Olympics being 4 years apart, can you take us inside for a little bit and give us a snapshot version of what it's like training as an Olympian? What's the grind like for you? How many days a week are you doing it? I mean, I feel good if I get on the treadmill 3 days a week. So I'm not pushing a bobsled down an ice luge anytime soon. But walk us through that. A lot of our viewers don't understand that part of the process. Yeah.
So I'm fortunate. I take all of April off. So you've probably worked out more than I have in April. So now that it's May, I've ordered some weights so that I can train from home and be safe and socially distanced. So generally I train 6 days a week, and Sunday is my only true day off. Usually Wednesdays and Fridays are kind of like recovery type days. And then basically bobsledders train like Olympic sprinters and Olympic weightlifters. So it's about having explosive strength and speed that you can maintain over 50 meters.
Wow. Wow. And how often, Lauren, do you get out to the training center in Colorado? Do you have to hit certain benchmarks and be out there at certain points of the year, or are you mostly on your own until the competitions?
So I actually train in the Chula Vista Elite Athlete Training Center. So it used to be an Olympic Training Center. Now the city of Chula Vista owns it, and it's a little closer to home. And so, I can see my niece and nephew, my brother and sister-in-law, my parents in the summer. So for like Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays and such. And so I'm supposed to be taking a trip out to Colorado Springs at the end of June. We'll see if that holds for our team camp. Obviously, everything's a little bit on hold right now until we figure out and sort out, how to be safe.
Sure. Thanks for giving us a peek into that, Lauren. It means a lot. I mean, I think the common denominator so far of both your answers, ladies, is, it seems like you're so driven by family and driven by mentorships and people that are close to you. So that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Staying on Olympics, shifting to you, Ann, you've been a trailblazer in a lot of different things. You were part of the first U.S. women's national basketball team to compete in the Olympics, and you were actually still in high school. You won a silver medal that year. I mean, as a high schooler going to the Olympics, to compete as part of this squad for the first time, I mean, how did you get yourself ready for that opportunity, and what was going through your head at that age? I mean, you told us how competitive your childhood was with your siblings, but high school going to the Olympics, that's a huge jump for anybody, even in today's standards.
Well, actually, I was a sophomore at UCLA at the time, but I was the first one to make a USA team as a high schooler, and so I had a lot to learn, even though I had been playing basketball against my brothers and pickup games, and also had played AAU with my sister. So I knew a lot of the athletes and through the AAUs. And as I said, at that time, back in the 60s and 70s, AAU is more like for women and of college age and late high school. But I started playing AAU when I was 13. I was one of the youngest to start playing then. And a lot of people in Southern California knew who I was because of my brother David, because of my sister Patty, and my brother Mark, who was also a pretty big name in La Habra where we grew up. Went to Cal on a football scholarship. So our family name was kind of out there and people knew who I was. So making that first team where we traveled around and played the Russians in the United States was big. And when we found out that 1976 was going to be the very first year they had women's basketball in the Olympics, I tried out. There were 4 regional tryouts and anybody could try out. So you had like 300 to 400 people at each tryout. You had one in the West, which was up in Sacramento. You had one in the East, one in the South, and one in the Midwest. And so they narrowed down, whoever was on these committees, narrowed the team down to like about 25 people. And we all met in Warrensburg, Missouri. And so they had a committee pick 12 players from that group. And I was fortunate enough to make that team. But I had already played my freshman year at UCLA. I played for Kenny Washington, who had played for Coach Wooden for 2 years on his championship teams in 64 and 65. So I really had a good lesson, I think, understanding how the game was played. And that freshman year was my brother David's senior year. So I got to go in also and watch all of Coach Wooden's practices with Gary Cunningham. And I got to see my brother practice. And so that was a special time my freshman year. But in between my sophomore year, that was the Olympic year in 76. And made that team and started on that team. And Pat Summitt was on that team and Billy Moore was the coach who had coached my sister at Cal State Fullerton, who then would become my coach my senior year at UCLA when we won the national championship. So a lot of tie-ins and everything. So to make the Olympic team was always my dream. But first it was as a high jumper and a track athlete. I was a pentathlete and a high jumper. And when I was younger, I read a book on Babe Diedrichson's Zaharias, and that was my dream, to go to the Olympics. And I thought it would be in track and field. It didn't work out that way. But like Lauren says, your path takes you different ways lots of times, and you have to take those opportunities. So I played 7 sports in high school, and but basketball landed the Olympics for me. And so I was very, I was very fortunate to be on that Olympic team. And it was a thrill of a lifetime. And competing for your country, not just in the Olympics, but so many other competitions, as Lauren knows, when you see your flag go up and they put that gold medal on your neck and you hear your national anthem, absolutely. The heart is all there. And even when you win a silver or bronze, I mean, the fact that you are that good and that medal there's a lot of pride for all of us.
Thank you, ladies. And I want to stick with the Olympics for both of you on another question. And Lauren, I want to go to you first here. The Olympics you just referenced the patriotism that's involved with winning and competing for your country. And it's a similar feeling, assumingly, for every athlete, regardless of the country they represent. So that the Olympics, though, if you go back to how they're rooted with the ancient Greeks and things, it's about, civic responsibility and mind, body, spirit. And through all of that, there's a common tone and a common thread of sportsmanship that gets pulled through. I mean, both of you have seen several Olympic Games from different vantage points. You've competed, you've watched as fans, you've broadcast, and in your role. What are some key acts of sportsmanship that you experienced or witnessed over those Olympic experiences? Lauren?
That's for me.
Yeah, we'll start with you, Lauren.
Yeah, I just think that it's an amazing experience to be in the Olympic Village. You see everybody in their respective clothing, and it's like your culture is now expressed in your opening, closing, and medal, your podium gear. And it's amazing just to see all the pin trading and the finding out about different sports and different people's paths and just making new friends. And it's like this just sense of like one big family. Like we all know in order to get there, you had to work your butt off and maybe miss some family events and spend time away from home. And that hard work isn't lost on any of us. And so it's very much, there's a lot of camaraderie. It's really a family. I finished second at the Olympic Games, and Germany came down after us and beat us. And there's one of my favorite photos is of me picking up the German pilot and congratulating her, because that was her first win ever. Her first major win ever was at the Olympic Games. And that is what the Olympics is about. Not just coming together, but the fact that anything can happen at the Olympics. And that's the magic and the beauty of the Olympics. You can go in an underdog, you can go in a favorite, and you just don't know how it's going to play out. And that's like the excitement. And so obviously athletic, and it still brings me chills. So.
Thanks, Lauren. How about you, Ann? I mean, you've seen so many Olympic Games through the years. I mean, is there a specific sportsmanship moment that sticks out to you as a broadcaster, competitor, viewer?
Well, there's really so many. And Lauren, yes, my hat goes off to you. You're absolutely right. And just you do your best. You go out there and you hope that you do your best. And they have their best times, but then another team comes along and has their best time. But, there's a few, I can't recall the different Olympics, but I think it was he was from England. He was a runner and he pulled his hamstring. It was just a few Olympics ago. And it was in the 200, I think, and he pulled a hamstring, and he's one of the top sprinters. And his dad came out of the stands to help him cross the finish line. And now remember, I grew up in an era where you were an amateur. In '76, the Olympics were completely different, and you can be a pro today. So a lot of times you'll see athletes today that are in multiple Olympics, where in my generation, you were in one, maybe two, if you were lucky, especially as a track athlete. But if you were a basketball player with, the men's basketball teams, they were usually college players, and the Eastern European teams were all considered amateurs, even though they had these athletes that were in their late 20s, early 30s, and some even in their 40s. But I recall, too, I don't know if it was Beijing, that I think there was a swimmer from the Bahamas or something, and had never really swam before, but they were in the Olympics as a swimmer. And everybody in the stadium just cheered. I mean, it was incredible to see the Olympic spirit cheering for somebody else. It didn't matter what country, they just wanted them to finish. I know that in 2004 that the United States men's basketball team won bronze, but to see Argentina and Spain and Italy, I mean, just the different attitude towards their country and representing their country was a little bit different than the NBA guys per se. And but to see these other countries that had won gold were just hugging each other and kissing each other, and just to see that was such a thrill. And the other thing that really gave me goosebumps, because I had been selected, I was a captain of our team in the 1979 Pan Am Games. I was selected to carry the flag for the opening ceremonies. And then in Beijing, to see Dawn Staley from the basketball team, to see her carry the flag was just, for me, it was just very powerful.
It's incredible. You're giving us chills. Thanks, ladies. Thanks for letting us peek into that. For the viewers out there, we have a few more questions that we're going to ask Lauren and Ann here coming up, but we see your questions coming in. If you have any questions, comments for our guests, please keep them coming. We'll get to them shortly. Lauren, I want to come back to you, and then Ann, we'll ask you the same question. You know, we've gone through your path to the Olympics, your professional life, your personal life. Both of you have pivoted to different personal and professional challenges several times in your life. We have a lot of younger viewers, a lot of college-age viewers we've found over the weeks. What type of message can you give to our younger listeners and younger people in general about being able to pivot and continue to compete, whether you're in business or the Olympics or, getting through this pandemic where we're all quarantined? You know, what did sports teach you about adapting to change throughout life? And I think, Lauren, you referenced a little bit earlier, is just keeping an open mind is so key, number one. But we'll start with you, Lauren, and then go to you, Ann. I mean, what advice would you have about just continuing to stick after it regardless of what the task is?
Yeah, I think one of my favorite things is it's never too late to be who you're meant to be, or to become who you're meant to be. And so I think it can be very easy to kind of get sucked into a path that, you feel like you're successful by societal means and terms, or, what you grew up thinking your life was supposed to look like. And so I think it's always important to check in and think about whether or not the activities and the things that you do on a daily basis are things that, keep you up at night or get you out of bed in the morning, that light your soul on fire. Not everything you do you're going to love, but there should be a significant part of your day every day that it is focused on things that you enjoy. Because at the end of this life, you can't take material things with you. You can't take your money with you, but you can take with you the collection of experience and people that you've met along your journey. And so I think it's always important to take stock in the life that you're living and make sure it's the life that you want. And if it's not, ask for help and, seek out others that are doing things that seem of interest to you, and do your best to incorporate as many things that you enjoy doing into your life on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. How about you, Ann? Do you have any advice for our younger viewers in terms of how to continue that grind throughout life?
Well, Lauren said it all, but a lot of it has to do with attitude. I mean, look at Lauren's attitude, so positive. And before we were getting on this chat, Lauren was having trouble getting on and hearing everybody. And I thought, what persistence she has. She never got flustered, and she stayed calm. And Coach Wooden used to always say, live each day as your masterpiece. And certainly this time that we are in with this pandemic, and so many people, struggling. They are struggling. And, I have a lot of faith because I have had some things happen in my life, as all of us do. And but I think, it's an opportunity. This is a great time to have an opportunity of failure. You're going to fail in things, but what happens when you succeed? And so looking at this as an opportunity with a positive attitude, and there's so many other things that you can draw from this, as Lauren was saying. I mean, that their path is going to change all the time. And how you deal with adversity, how you deal with things that don't always go your way, you have to look at that as a positive and say, what a great opportunity. Didn't work out for me, so now I'm going to try something else. But at least now if I failed, I know why I failed, what happened, what do I need to do next, what do I need to do to get better. And certainly I think it's all about attitude and just being positive.
Thank you, ladies. Last question, then we'll get to some of our viewer questions on Facebook and YouTube. You know, the Rose Bowl Stadium, you know, we turn 100 years young here in a couple of years, and we're starting to look at those iconic events of past, the World Cups, the Olympics, the granddaddy of them all, mega concerts. I mean, there's so much that these iconic events can teach us, and sports is one of the sole unifiers of people. So we're looking forward at the Rose Bowl to teaching kids and community about the inherent traits of those events, the teamwork, the leadership, the empowerment, the ethics, the inclusion. You both, thankfully, participated in the inaugural Women's Empowerment Symposium last July, and that was really the first event we put ourselves out there to try to use the Rose Bowl's brand and iconic event influence to influence others. Would you mind sharing what that meant to you? I mean, Lauren, starting with you, you've done some TEDx speeches. You're both motivational speakers. What did that mean to you that day at the Rose Bowl in July last year in 2019, being there with all those young women for the day of inspiration? Lauren?
Yeah, I think it was pretty special. You know, the Olympics was really about my path and working out what I wanted to do with my life and all that, and of course representing my country. And now that I've experienced that, it's important to me that as many people as possible experience their version of the Olympics. I think that, you know, you can have success in all different areas of your life. I have an older brother. He grew up an artist. I was the athlete, and now he's a voiceover artist, and he's very successful. We're very different. Our educational paths were different, and we both excel in our own arenas. And so it's so important to support people's dreams and aspirations. And if someone looks up to me because I went to the Olympics, and because of that, they'll listen to me, then everything they're going to hear from me is follow your dreams, work hard, and be kind to others.
Thank you. Ann, what did that day mean to you last year in July at the Rose Bowl? You did our keynote at the lunch session.
Well, I was so honored and excited to be a part of that. I was blown away by the young women, all from all over the world that they came, and just their inquisitiveness and wanting to learn about Lauren, about myself, and so many of the other women that spoke. I have to go back, though, to last week when you interviewed John Shara and Coach Dick Vermeil. And I went to school at that time when UCLA won the Rose Bowl. And if you remember, UCLA they did not have the home of the Rose Bowl then when we were going to school. So I really didn't know how to get to Pasadena or where Pasadena was, not until the 80s and UCLA became a part of the Rose Bowl. And certainly I think that, watching that grow and see the women now be a part of it. Because one of my greatest sayings is listening to your announcer, Keith Jackson, when he says, "We're going to play football today. Whoa, yippee." And I think that's one of the greatest lines. And it stems from the Rose Bowl. The magic and the history and what the Rose Bowl represents, not only in the community of Pasadena, but in Southern California. And so to have these young women to be a part of that and to be able to share our stories with them. And as Lauren says, I mean, anything is possible. Any of these women, young women coming in and hearing the speakers to know that, yeah, things may not work out, but it's like, look at all of these women that spoke. I mean, I was blown away. Everyone that had a story. And to me, it was like opening up Pandora's box for these women is like going, yes, these doors are open for us. I do not like the phrase glass ceiling. There's never been a ceiling for me. I don't know who came up with that term, but to know that these young women know that they can do anything that they want because there's nothing to stop them. Yes, there's going to be, people that say you can't do it, you're not good enough, you don't have enough experience, I don't like the way you look, whatever. And but it's going to be what kind of fabric they have inside. And as Lauren said too, I think the biggest thing is that you want to go out and represent not just yourself, but you're representing your parents, you're representing your family, you're representing your school, you're representing the Rose Bowl. And you don't want to let those people down, let alone yourself. And so there is a great pride in who you're representing, not just yourself, but so many other people that have helped you along the way.
Thanks, ladies. We're going to get to some fan questions now, and you both have a few minutes you can spend with us, right? All right, great.
Nowhere to be.
Yeah. Before we get into the fan questions, I want to, on behalf of the stadium, thank Ryan and Sarah Satterfield from Name Brand Advertising. They've been our producers of Rose Bowl Live for the first 3 weeks, and he's on the back end. We don't see him, but he's producing what you all love and enjoy. So if you're interested and you want to check them out, go to namebrandads.com. Ryan, Sarah, we appreciate what y'all are doing. And also, we have some good news to share before we get to the fan questions. You know, it seems like there's finally a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us on this pandemic, and the Brookside Golf Club reopened yesterday. So for those of you that are out there and you want to get active again, the trails are starting to reopen. Obviously, do it safely, social distance yourself, pay attention to those parameters and the new dynamic we're all living. But check out Brookside Golf Club, check out any park, any trail that's reopening, any golf course. But let's stay on the path here so we can all get back to the new normal. All right, going to Facebook first, and this question's for both of you. We'll start with Lauren. You're both such groundbreakers. What kept you both pursuing your goals, and what roadblocks in particular did you have to overcome and not give up? Lauren?
Yeah, I think for me, it's amazing to have role models like Anne, who, just hearing her talk and everything that she's done, and she talks about it like, oh, well, I did this, and then I want to do this, and there was never like a phase you can tell where she thought or even questioned whether or not she could do it. She just went after it because that's what she wanted. And so that's how I was raised too. It was like, if I wanted something, there wasn't anybody or anything that was going to stop me from doing it, but except for me. And I think some of it's, nature versus nurture. But again, my parents always supported my dreams. The school I went to always supported my dreams. And then, through failures and successes, I figured out that if you work hard for something, you're more likely to get it. If you don't work hard for something, then you're leaving it to chance and luck. And so, that's really what it came down to me, is that I didn't want to get to that phase where they were naming the Olympic team or get to the Olympics and wish I had worked harder. Because once you're there, you're not just representing yourself and your family, but also the Rose Bowl and then, of course, the entire country. And so you don't want to be standing on the world stage wishing you had done more. So I knew I had a very finite amount of time to train for that 3.5 minutes of competition, and I wanted it to be as perfect as possible.
And how about you? What roadblocks did you have to overcome and really to help yourself keep pursuing your goals and dreams as you were breaking the ground, which at the time you said you didn't realize how special it was to get that scholarship at the time, other than relieving your parents of the tuition bill. But hindsight's 20/20, and as you reflect back, I mean, what hurdles and roadblocks did you have to overcome?
It's such a different time today, Dedan, especially with the social media, and we didn't have that growing up. Certainly, you had people in your neighborhood that would say mean things to you or whatever, and challenge you. But again, like Lauren, I was fortunate enough to have the support of my family, that our parents were supportive of their daughters competing in sports as much as they were their sons. I went through the Catholic schools at a very early age and then went to the public schools. When I was younger, you had to wear dresses and skirts to school. And so there was just, my generation was a little bit different. But in saying that, there's always, I think the biggest roadblock is our minds, because of what people say about us, people we don't even know, or taking constructive criticism and making it a positive. When I was getting into broadcasting, I remember a very, very well-known and powerful agent I was fortunate enough to have lunch with, and he said, well, you're not going to make it in this business until you grow your hair long and grow your nails long. And I was like, going, wow. So you're going to always have to say, that you're not good enough. And the name of my book is You Let Some Girl Beat You. So you're dealing also with social attitudes. And you still hear that phrase today by fathers or parents to say that to their sons. You're going to let a girl beat you? And you throw like a girl. So there's such a demeaning still attitude towards women being a female. So if you have a daughter, if you have a wife, if you have a sister, if you have a mother, I mean, you're demeaning those people in your lives when you say that. So I think, Billie Jean King has been, I think, such a leader for a lot of women back in the 70s and still today. And so her talks, as far as talking about language and how you talk about women instead, like we can say girls amongst each other. But when you hear a guy say, well, you're a bunch of girls playing, you want to say, no, we're a bunch of women playing.
Mm-hmm.
And we are over the age of 18 kind of thing. So, just those things. So, yes, you have roadblocks, you have adversity. I lost my husband in 93. How do you get over that? I have a lot of faith. I grew up with a lot of faith in my family. I've seen my mother lose 4 children and go through a divorce. And at 94, I mean, she's still fighting for her life. And so when you see people that have loved ones that, whether it's cancer or whether car accident or now that we've got this COVID-19 that we all have to be so careful with. And, for me, faith has carried me through a lot of things.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next question is from Facebook, and this is for Lauren. Lauren, what is it like to live in the Olympic Village around all the inspirational athletes? What did you take from that part of your Olympic experience?
Oh, man. So I was in Korea for a full month, and we didn't compete until the 3rd week. And so it's really neat when they don't sell out an event, you get to go and watch an event. So I got to watch Shaun White win his gold medal. And there's a fun photo of me taking a selfie, and he's crying and hugging his mom with the American flag around his shoulders. Because I didn't realize we were literally right where the athletes walk off. And it's amazing to be in the presence of these athletes that I've admired for so long and realize we're all part of the same club now, And, the saying is always Olympian, never former. And it's an indescribable feeling to be part of one of the coolest secret clubs on the planet. And there's just like this unspoken respect amongst athletes. And it's magical. It was freezing. I think the Pyeongchang Olympics was the coldest Olympics since Norway in the 80s. So it was really cold. But, I was just on cloud 9 the entire time. I was living a dream that I didn't even know I had, and amongst some of the best athletes in the world. And it was just an honor to be one of them. So.
Sticking with you said cloud 9 there, so let's stick with another question with emotions. And Ann, we'll start with you. This is for both of you. This is from YouTube. They want to know for both of you, what type of emotions were you feeling as a competitor right before your first tip off, Ann, or before you got out of the gate the first time, Lauren, on your side, and then also compare it to the types of emotions you were feeling when you're actually getting to stand on the podium and get that medal hung around your neck. Ann?
Well, my Olympics were in Montreal, so they were close to the United States, and I had a lot of family there, and it was, there's no question, like Lauren is said, it's so magical. You can't really explain it to people, because to represent your country and have USA on your jersey or your uniform, and I went into every game believing that I was going to win. We didn't win every game, but I absolutely believed that we were so good that nobody was going to beat us. And so when we would lose a game, which actually the United States and Japan was the very first women's basketball game in the Olympics in 1976, and we lost that game. And we had, I probably didn't get to enjoy the village as much, because just being at the Olympics was like, we're here to compete. And so losing to Japan in that first game was devastating. And so my focus, as our team's focus, was we've got to get better. We can't let this happen again. And but certainly we lost to the Soviet Union, but we won the other 3 games. And it's a little bit different in 76 as it is today. But just knowing that we were going to stand on that podium and win a medal, there was such great pride. And the fact that you have family there, we didn't have the TV watching our games as much as a lot of events are today for the Olympic sports. But we knew that people were watching us because we were a fun team to watch, and we were a good team. And but to have them put that medal on us and have USA and see your family and friends, it was magical.
How about you, Lauren? What was going through your head as a competitor right before you made that first push in Pyeongchang, and then what was the emotional? What was going on in your head, as you got to stand on the podium with your partner?
So probably the emotion was search and destroy. It's just, I'm generally fairly humble about my skill as a bobsled brakeman. I always feel like I have more to learn and more to grow. But in those, you just tell yourself you're the best in the world, and it's not even a question. You know, we finished that last run, and I was certain we were gold medalists, and we didn't end up becoming gold medalists. And, you know, I guess it's maybe a good thing, because I don't know if I would have done another 4 years. And I think I was meant to do another 4 years, but I don't think my story was done. And then the medal podium is just this, and I don't know what it was like for you, Ann, because I think you probably did it on the basketball court, because, you know, you may have done it the same night with your whole team. But we went to the pavilion, and like, it's just this massive stage, and it's like this tradition, and, you know, you have the Korean military holding the flags, and there's this great highlight reel that one of our volunteer videographers made, and it's like you can see the crowd, but you can't really see faces, and you're just up on the stage, and it's just 3 teams, and it's almost like it's like I couldn't feel. It's like it doesn't feel real. It's the most surreal feeling. And I remember the first time they put the medal around my neck. The Pyeongchang medals are the heaviest medals they've made, and you can hear me on the broadcast saying, "Wow, this is heavy." Like it's like a good like 2 to 3 pounds, and so yeah, it's a massive medal, and it's a surreal moment. It really was. I can't even describe it. It's just it's like nothing I've ever done before.
Thank you, and we'll do one more question for each of you from our viewers out there, and Lauren, we'll stick with you. It says, Miss Gibbs, my wife met you and your mom at Rose Bowl last summer. She said you were both so approachable, but my question is, did you take to this new sport immediately, or did you wonder what you got yourself into initially? I mean, how long until you actually stuck and said, you know, this is my thing?
Oh, it's terrible. I was, you know, and that's one of the things. I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I think one of the things I really try and drive home is that I'm fairly ordinary, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just I'm a normal human being that happened to work really hard and do something extraordinary. And I think it's important for people to hear that part of my story, because if I'm some like superhero that you're putting up on a podium and I'm telling you that these are the things and reaching for your goals, like, no one's going to listen to me because it's not duplicatable. And so I think it's important to know that I was really bad at bobsled, and I was scared all the time. And my first full season, I was just terrified every time I got in the back of the sled. I got thrown into the fire. You know, the U.S. team, we swept the podium our first World Cup race, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I was, you know, competing alongside these women who had already gone to the Olympics and medaled. And you know, I was used to, in my corporate job, being the boss and the one with all the answers, and, you know, to basically start from scratch. It felt like I was drinking from a fire hose every day. But I love learning, and that's what I realized. I really love to learn, and I got to learn every single day in a bobsled. So I think that's what really drew me to it. And so to answer your question, no, I was not great. I was terrible. Absolutely terrible. You can call any of my coaches or teammates, they'd tell you.
And our final fan question for today, Ann, is for you. It's from one of our viewers on YouTube. They say, Ann, do you remember your best game played at UCLA? Who was it against, and do you remember anything about your stat line that night? Is there a game that sticks out in your head from being a Bruin?
You know, I had good teammates, and so I was very fortunate to play with good teammates. You know, I know that I was the 3rd leading scorer on our team at UCLA. Of course, I did lead in rebounding, steals, assists, I don't know, everything else. But I know that I had a quadruple double in one of the games. I think my final game, I had a pretty good game when we won the championship against Maryland. But I don't remember specifics, and I feel bad because my brother David, he could remember, you know, the play of the final game against Kentucky, or different games that he played throughout his career and when he was with the Bucks. And I wish I had a better memory to point out, oh yeah, I did this in that game. But you know, just the fact that I probably remember the losses better. I remember sophomore year we got beat by 30 against Pomona, and like Lauren says, it's when you fail and you don't succeed is what makes you work harder and how to get better. But I just guess my time at UCLA and the people that I met and really influenced is what really kind of sticks out. My teammates and being competitive.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you, Ann. For us to learn and hear from two incredible women today, this was the most inspirational episode by far, and I know our viewers will see it the same way. I mean, for those of you listening out there, I mean, follow Ann, follow Lauren. They're two of the most incredibly approachable, inspirational human beings you'll ever come across, and we're so thankful to have you both in the Rose Bowl Stadium family. Thank you for visiting with us today.
Thanks, Dedan.
Thank you.
Lauren, great job.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you.
And I talked to Natalie. She says hi.
Oh, yay. Hi, back.
We had a Brown reunion the other day.
Oh,
so
good.
On
Well, yeah,
Zoom,
because she's in London.
Yep.
For those of you out there, we're back next Saturday at 4 p.m. Pacific time with episode 4. We have Brandy Chastain and Julie Foudy from the 1999 Team USA Women's World Cup champion team that won that iconic match out there at the Rose Bowl that is compared on the same list up there with Title IX, and it did so much for women's athletics in this country. So we hope you'll tune back in on the Rose Bowl Stadium Facebook, Rose Bowl Stadium YouTube at 4 p.m. Pacific time next Saturday, May 16th. And I'm going to relinquish the host chair humbly next week because we have a guest host next week in Ann Meyers Drysdale. Ann, you're going to join us 2 weeks in a row and moderate this incredible interview for us next week. So thank you so much for
you and I are going to
coming
be
back
on all week this week, Dedan.
I'm jealous.
You got it. No, we're so thankful for you women, and thank you for trusting us at the Rose Bowl with today and joining us for some fun time over the last hour. We appreciate it, and enjoy the Mother's Day weekend with your family, and we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You are looking live. There's something sacred about this stadium and its setting. There's nothing like this venue, in my opinion, in all of sports.
The setting is about as good as anywhere in the country. With the San Gabriel Mountains in the backdrop, it's always picturesque.
We're going to play football. Yes, he's going for the corner. He's got it. Vince Young scores.